I should have known something was off when Laura started labeling the garage boxes. Not organizing them, labeling. Neatly. With a label maker we'd never owned before. Summer clothes, one said. Christmas lights, another. Then the real kicker. Edward's junk. My junk. Like I was a roommate, not a husband. Now, I'm not saying a label maker is grounds for suspicion. I'm saying it was the kind of thing you notice when the woman you've been married to for 11 years suddenly decides to go full-on suburban Marie Kondo. After 2 decades of pretending our garage was a black hole you just don't poke. You ever have that feeling? Like the movie of your life still playing, but someone swapped out the actors? That's how it felt living with Laura lately. She still looked the same. Same blonde hair that frizzed when it rained. Same dimple when she laughed at something genuinely funny, which was rare by the way. But the vibe? It was like living with an actress playing wife in a commercial for antidepressants. It wasn't just the boxes, or the way she suddenly got into hot yoga, or how she smiled too wide when she said she had to run to Target. It was the way silence showed up in our house and unpacked its bags. We used to talk, really talk, about weird dreams, the neighbors, politics, whatever. Now she sat across the dinner table like she was filing a customer service complaint in her head. I could see it in her face, polite, detached, and definitely not in love. I brought it up once. Asked if everything was okay. She gave me a look like I'd asked her if she still believed in Santa. Oh, I'm just stressed, she said. Work's been a lot. Which was cute, because she was a part-time events coordinator at a community arts center that saw more bingo than ballet. But sure, stress. I'm not proud of this, but for a little while, I actually wondered if it was me. Maybe I'd gotten boring. Maybe I had slipped into some dad mode I couldn't see. My friends say I'm a pretty normal guy, mid-40s, own a small landscape design business, watch college football, fix my own lawnmower, still got most of my hair. I make a good living. I don't cheat. I fold my socks. I even learned how to make tofu stir-fry because Laura decided 2 years ago that meat was too aggressive. So yeah, I doubted myself. Maybe this was just a slump. A marital speed bump. Happens to everybody, right? Then came the Saturday she forgot her phone at home. First time in over a year, and you would have thought someone cut off her arm. She came tearing into the kitchen, panicked, grabbing her keys and mumbling something about a meeting she forgot. A meeting. On a Saturday. At 7:40 a.m. I followed her out with my coffee, just in time to see her peel out of the driveway like she was being chased by an IRS agent. But there it was, her phone, sitting right on the kitchen counter, next to the ceramic bowl she never actually used for fruit. I wish I could tell you I looked. I wish I could tell you I opened her texts and unraveled some tangled love affair with a jazz musician or her ex-boyfriend from college. That would have made a better story. But no, I didn't touch it. Why? Because I knew if I opened that phone, whatever I found would change everything. And I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. Call it cowardice. Call it hope. Doesn't matter. Instead, I put the phone in her nightstand drawer, made myself another cup of coffee, and sat down on the back porch, watching the squirrels ride in our bird feeder like it was just another Saturday. Now here's the part that'll really bake your noodle. I didn't find out about the cheating from her phone, or from some lipstick on a shirt, or some text that said, "Last night was amazing." None of that cliché nonsense. I found out because of a printer. Yep, a printer. But that's for later. For now, all you need to know is that when the walls started crumbling, they didn't come down with a bang. They chipped away, slow and steady, like termites in the foundation. And I was the idiot walking around upstairs, wondering why the floor kept creaking. Laura and I met in 2009. She was working at a photography studio. I was designing patios and fire pits for rich people who wanted their backyards to look like Tuscany. She had this laugh, short, loud, a little snort at the end. It was ridiculous. I loved it. We got married 2 years later. Bought a little 3-bedroom outside of Cincinnati. Settled into the whole American dream thing, minus the white picket fence. I installed a cedar one. Looked better with the stonework. We had no kids, by choice. At least, that's what we told people. Truth was, Laura wanted them. I didn't. It's not that I hate kids. I just knew I wouldn't be the kind of dad I'd want to be. And Laura, for all her artsy spirit and curated playlists, didn't fight me on it. Not loudly anyway. I always thought we were solid. Sure, she had her moods, and I wasn't exactly Mr. Emotional Depth, but we had a system. She'd vent. I'd listen. I'd fix things. She'd make tea. It worked. Until it didn't. These days, I felt like a placeholder in my own life. A cardboard cutout that moved the lawn and paid the mortgage. But I didn't panic. Not yet. I figured whatever was wrong would reveal itself. And I'd deal with it when it did. And man, when it did. Let's just say, I wasn't prepared for the how. Because Laura? She didn't get sloppy. She got clever. And that printer? That stupid little printer in our home office? It saw everything before I did. You ever stare at something so long that your brain stops seeing it? That was me with our home office. It was a room I walked past 100 times a week and only used maybe once every 2. A glorified mailroom/dumping ground with a saggy IKEA desk, an old love seat nobody sat on, and a dusty Canon printer that we bought back when people still printed directions from MapQuest. Laura used the office more than I did. It had slowly become her space over the last couple of years. She claimed she needed it for freelance gigs, event planning, side projects. I didn't ask questions. We weren't hurting for space or money. And to be honest, I didn't care what she did in there as long as it didn't involve glue guns or inspirational quote decals. But this past March, I needed to print out some design sketches for a client meeting. Just a quick batch, nothing fancy. Our regular shop was closed, and I figured I'd finally use the Canon that had been collecting dust and resentment. The thing whirred to life like a sleeping dragon. Took it a minute. Then it blinked an orange light at me and spit out a piece of paper. Not my sketches. Not even close. At first glance, I thought it was an invoice. Company letterhead, itemized charges, all very clean and professional. But the name on the billing address stopped me cold. Christopher Vaughn. Not me. Not Laura. Not anyone I'd ever heard of. The address? Some apartment complex 2 neighborhoods over. Modern, upscale, with those fake balconies and Bluetooth mailboxes. Under service description, it read, custom framing, romantic photography series, 3 pieces, discreet packaging included. Romantic photography series? What the hell did that even mean? The date was just a week old. I stood there in the office, holding that paper like it might catch fire. There was no sender listed. Just a generic logo for a local custom framing shop downtown. I checked the print queue. It was empty. Printer history? Cleared. That's when it hit me. She must have printed it, thought the job was jammed or delayed, and never realized it was still waiting in the printer's internal memory. All it needed was me hitting print again to cough it up. By sheer dumb luck, I got the ghost page. Now, I'm not one to jump to conclusions. Really, I'm not. But it's not exactly a stretch to go from romantic photography to someone's got a side project they don't want framed in our house. And Christopher Vaughn? I looked him up. Because of course I did. Took about 5 minutes of Googling. The guy was a local architecture professor. 46. Divorced. A contributor to one of those niche lifestyle sites for men who think dressing like a lumberjack makes them emotionally complex. His LinkedIn said he taught part-time at a local college. His Instagram had black and white photos of urban decay and captions like "The soul lives in silence." You know the type. And then I saw it. A post from 4 weeks ago. A photo of a staircase. Harmless. Unless you happen to recognize the background rug. Our rug. Right there, blurred out and slightly off-center, was the unmistakable, ugly, seafoam green rug Laura insisted on buying for our front hall because it softened the energy. Now, there's no version of reality where Christopher Vaughn accidentally stumbled into our front hall to photograph a staircase. I looked closer, zoomed in. There it was, just barely, Laura's hand on the banister. I scrolled. 2 weeks later, another photo. This time a wine glass, half full, sitting on what looked suspiciously like the arm of our living room couch. Caption: wine tastes better in good company. No tags. No names. Just hints. Breadcrumbs. That's when it all started clicking. The longer evenings she claimed she was working at the venue. The new lingerie I'd never seen again after she bought it. The monthly networking mixers that required blowouts and perfume, but never a +1 invite. But still, I didn't have hard proof. Not yet. So I got creative. I emailed the framing shop, used a fake name, and said I wanted to order something, just like the one I'd seen in my friend Christopher Vaughn's order last month. I figured they'd ignore it. They didn't. A day later, I got a polite reply from Angela, who said she'd be happy to replicate the project, but they'd need the original photography files or permission from the artist. She even attached thumbnails of the frames for reference. And there they were. 3 mock-ups. Each one had a blurred-out silhouette in a backlit pose, Tasteful, artsy, but intimate. Laura. I knew her body like the blueprint of our house. She wasn't nude. Nothing graphic. But it was clear. Legs curled under her, hand behind her neck, hair swept sideways in one. Another one with her back arched just so. The third had her looking off camera, wrapped in a sheet I recognized. My sheet. It was from our guest bed, the blue one with the tiny embroidered corners. She used it for the shoot. I stared at the screen for a long time, my cursor hovering over the download button like it was a trigger. I didn't download them. Didn't need to. I emailed back a simple, "Thanks anyway," and deleted the whole thread. Then I shut my laptop and went outside and cut the lawn like nothing happened. I didn't scream. Didn't throw anything. I just mowed the grass in silence, letting the engine noise drown out the static in my skull. You know what's funny? I wasn't even that mad yet. I was insulted. Not because she cheated, though we're getting there, but because she thought she was smarter than me. Like I was some clueless husband who wouldn't notice the smell of fresh betrayal clinging to her coat when she walked in late from working the donor gala. She had a whole relationship running on parallel tracks, and I was supposed to just keep mowing lawns, printing invoices, and not asking why the toothpaste cap kept ending up on the wrong side of the sink. So I made a plan. No drama. No shouting match. Just patience. I went back into the house, sat down with a notepad, and made 2 lists. 1. Everything I knew so far. 2. What I needed to confirm before I made my move. I needed one more thing. One perfectly clear, undeniable thread that tied Laura to Mr. Urban Decay. So I waited. The opportunity came on a Thursday. She was hosting her event planning circle at our house. I sat in the back office, pretending to work, while 5 women drank Prosecco and complimented each other's business cards. At one point, Laura went to the garage. I saw her reflection in the office window. She took out a white shipping tube from the trunk of her car and snuck it into the closet in the hall. I waited until midnight. She was asleep. I opened the closet. The tube was there. Inside, 3 freshly framed photos. The same ones from the thumbnails. The same ones from our guest bed, printed and mounted like some kind of twisted tribute. Taped to the back of one. A small, handwritten card. To Laura, thank you for trusting me with your truth. You are art. Always. See, I didn't cry. Didn't flip a table. I just stood there, reading the card again and again, and then placed it all back in the closet exactly how I found it. Because now I had everything I needed. And she had no idea I knew. She didn't see it coming. That's the part one still think about. The way she floated through those few days like nothing was wrong. Like her little side project with Professor Wallpaper had been safely tucked away in some private dimension I'd never find my way into. She was more relaxed, even affectionate in that performative way people get when they think their lies are under control. She made me coffee one morning. Actually kissed my cheek when she handed it over. I remember thinking, wow, that's adorable. She's kissing the man she's quietly replacing. I didn't pull away, just smiled, thanked her, and took a long sip. We were on a tightrope now. She thought the safety net was hers. I was about to cut the rope. Let me tell you something about marriage. The worst fights aren't the ones where you scream. The worst ones are quiet. They happen with a full dishwasher and the news playing in the background. They happen when one person knows everything and the other's still reciting their lines like the play's going according to script. Thursday night, I set it in motion. Hey, I said casually, sliding a manila folder across the table while she was finishing her salad. Need your opinion on something for a client. Just real quick. She looked up, a little surprised. Sure. She opened the folder. Inside were 3 photos. Not the photos, just similar ones. Anonymous glamour shots I pulled off an artsy photography site. Same tone, same posing style, same framing. I watched her eyes scan them. Her face went blank. Do you think this kind of work is tasteful? I asked. She stared at them for a second too long. Blinked. I guess. Why are you asking? Client wants a custom outdoor privacy wall, and he's using prints like this for inspiration. Said it's for his wife's photography exhibit. Thought it was odd. This kind of art seems personal. Still nothing. Just the tight smile she used when she was lying to her mother. She muttered, folding the folder closed. Well, it's definitely bold. Right? I nodded. I said the same thing. Told him I didn't think most people want their neighbors looking at their wife's back arch through frosted plexiglass. She gave a small laugh, but it sounded like her throat had dried out halfway through. Anyway, I added casually, The guy's name is Christopher Vaughn. Ever heard of him? There it was. The tiny muscle just above her left eye twitched. She blinked too quickly. Doesn't ring a bell, she said. Sure. Architecture guy. Posts those moody black and whites. Always wears scarves. Looks like someone who drinks coffee he can't pronounce. She shrugged. Not my circle. I smiled, nodded. Yeah, probably not. We sat there in silence. I picked up the folder and stood. All right, I said, patting it once. Thanks for the input. I'll let him know you approve. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could hear the gears turning in her head from across the room. That night, I started packing. Not everything. Just enough to signal that something was shifting. I moved some tools from the garage into my truck. Folded up a few shirts. Grabbed the bottle of bourbon I'd been saving for when the Bengals won a playoff game. She watched from the hallway. What's going on? She asked, arms crossed. The faux casual tone was cracking at the edges. Got a project out in Sycamore, I said. Client wants me to oversee it personally. Gonna be long hours. I'll crash at the rental for a bit. You didn't say anything about that. Didn't think I needed permission to do my job. Her lips parted slightly. She didn't argue. Just stood there, unsure of which script to pull from. Laura, I said calmly, turning to her with the bag slung over my shoulder. If you want to talk, now's the time. She blinked again. About what? You know exactly what. Silence. Long dead. Then she tried the pivot. Edward, if this is about how distant we've been lately. No, I cut her off. Don't insult both of us. She tried again, slower this time. I'm not sure what you think you know, but... Oh, I know plenty. I took a step toward her. I know you printed framed photos in our house and sent them to a man who's been using our living room like it's a part-time photography studio. I know you met him at least 7 times in the last 3 months. I know his apartment lease started 2 weeks before your sudden obsession with helping local artists. I know his handwriting. I know what the card said. Her face went still. I could see her calculating, doing the math, running diagnostics on the situation. So what now? She finally asked. Good question, I said. But I'll tell you what isn't happening. There's no screaming. No melodrama. No tables flipped. Are you leaving me? I'm not leaving anything, I said calmly. I'm just pivoting. To what? You'll see. She looked scared now, which was almost satisfying. Almost. But then she said it, the one thing I didn't expect. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I actually laughed. Loud. A real one. Laura, you hired a photographer. You framed the evidence. You posed. This wasn't a drunken slip-up in Vegas. You choreographed this. You directed it. She bit her lip. I was lonely, she said, almost a whisper. We've been so disconnected. No. See, that's the part one can't accept, I replied. You don't get to blame your lack of creativity on my silence. You want to write a new chapter? Fine. But don't pretend the old one wasn't still being written. I thought maybe I could just, I don't know, keep both. I stared at her. You're not Amazon Prime, Laura. You don't get to bundle your betrayals with free shipping. She winced. Is there someone else? She asked suddenly, like flipping the table might help her win back control. No, I said. But there will be. She tilted her head. So you're planning revenge. I'm planning clarity, I said, walking past her toward the front door. And trust me, it's coming. I paused with my hand on the doorknob. Don't touch the closet in the hall, I said without looking back. What's in there? Proof, I said, and a deadline. Then I left. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Because now the game was real. And Laura? Laura was still playing checkers. I had switched to chess. Revenge doesn't have to be loud. That's the mistake most people make. They think it has to come with broken dishes or dramatic public meltdowns or some midnight drive-by where you toss her stuff on the lawn like a budget soap opera. Not me. I wanted Laura to feel it in her bones. That weightless, sinking sensation of realizing you've been outplayed by the very person you assumed was asleep at the wheel. It started on a Monday. She came home to find the house exactly as she'd left it. Dinner in the fridge. Trash out. Floors clean. I was gone, of course, already staying in the rental out in Sycamore, but everything was pristine. Like nothing had changed. Except for one thing. I'd taken every photo of us off the walls. Every frame. Every wedding photo. Every anniversary trip pic. Every casual snapshot from barbecues or holidays. All gone. Even the stupid magnet collage on the fridge. In their place? Blank hooks. Empty nail holes. It was subtle, but jarring. Like walking into a museum where someone quietly removed the art. The next morning, she texted, "Hey, did you take the photo albums?" I waited 4 hours before I replied. "Which ones?" She didn't respond. I knew she wouldn't. She was panicking, not because she missed the photos, because she knew what they meant, because I'd just signaled, without a word, that our history had been redacted. Step 2 came on Wednesday. I sent her a package. No return address. Inside was the manila folder from our kitchen table, now updated. Instead of anonymous art photos, this version had copies of her framed shoot with Professor Vaughn. I'd used a scanner while she was asleep and printed them with a watermark across the bottom corner that said, Exhibit A. Tucked inside was a single sheet of paper. One sentence. "You've got until Saturday." Saturday was key, because that's when her sister's birthday party was. A backyard thing. Whole extended family. Catered, of course. Laura insisted on hiring a taco truck because nobody wants potluck anymore. She thought I'd skip it. I didn't. I showed up clean-shaven, in a crisp navy button-down she bought me last Christmas. Brought a bottle of good bourbon and a portable Bluetooth speaker. Played cornhole with her nephews like nothing was wrong. Laura was already there when I arrived. I saw her across the lawn, her face pale, like a student who walked into class and realized today was the final exam. She didn't say a word. Didn't need to. Everyone else did the talking. "Oh, hey, Edward. We didn't know you were coming. Thought you two were out of town. How's business?" I answered every question like I'd just won a regional golf tournament. And then, just before the cake, I made my move. I walked over to her, leaned in, and said quietly, "Mind if I say a few words?" Her eyes widened. "What are you doing?" I smiled. "Relax. It's a toast." I tapped the side of my glass. "Hey, folks," I said, raising my voice just enough to turn heads. "Sorry to interrupt the tequila and tortillas, but I just wanted to say a few quick things." People clapped. I wasn't known for speeches. They thought I was being sweet. "I just want to say how grateful I am to be part of this family." I began, scanning the crowd. Laura's family has always welcomed me, even when I forgot to bring napkins or burnt the Thanksgiving turkey. Light laughter. "And I know families go through changes," I continued. "People grow. They evolve. Sometimes, they even explore new artistic pursuits." Laura froze. "Which is great. I mean, really, who hasn't thought about doing a tasteful photo shoot in their home with a man you met during a planning committee mixer?" The silence hit instantly, like someone killed the music. I let it hang there for just a beat. "Because that's what marriage is, right?" I said, nodding. "Trust. Flexibility. Knowing that when your spouse invites a guest photographer into your living room, they'll at least have the courtesy to crop out the family dog." You could have heard a fork drop in the guacamole. I raised my glass. "To honesty," I said, and took a long, slow sip. Then I walked off, tossed the empty cup, and high-fived her confused cousin on the way out. Laura didn't follow me. She couldn't. She was rooted to that lawn like a statue, surrounded by a sea of confused relatives who were now doing the mental math. I left the party and went straight to the framing shop. Angela greeted me at the counter. "Here to pick up the order?" she asked, tilting her head. I smiled. "Just checking if you had any leftover promotional cards. I'm launching a new business. Very niche." She handed me a small stack. I added them to the gift bags. "All right, the gift bags." See, I had one more move. A week later, I hosted a customer appreciation barbecue for my landscape clients. Longtime homeowners who trusted me with their patios, retaining walls, outdoor kitchens. The event was part of a loyalty program I made up just for this purpose. It was small, maybe 20 people. I grilled. We drank. They all left with a tote bag. Inside each bag, a $10 Lowe's gift card, and a professionally printed flyer that said, "Edward Trent, landscape design and discretion. Need privacy? We know the value of keeping certain views just between us." On the back, a pixelated, artsy version of one of Laura's photos. No face, just silhouette, and the tagline, "Some things deserve a better backdrop." I never mentioned her name. Didn't have to. The photo was vague enough to be anonymous, but sharp enough for anyone who knew us to connect the dots. It wasn't revenge. It was a resume. By the following Monday, Laura's reputation in her event planning circles was radioactive. One of the women from her wine group texted me, "Did you actually send that flyer out?" I replied, "Would you believe me if I said no?" She didn't answer. I didn't care. By the end of the month, Laura moved out of the house. Took her printer, her yoga mat, and half her cutlery. I let her go. No argument. No tears. Just away from the porch. Because here's the thing. Revenge isn't about hurting someone. It's about showing them what happens when they underestimate you. It's about making them realize they built their whole little escape plan on the assumption that you wouldn't notice the fire until after it burned the house down. I didn't just notice. I bought the extinguisher, the insurance, and then sold the land under her feet. She thought she'd take her secret and frame it. I framed her instead. It took her 3 weeks to ask for the meeting. I'd been waiting for it, honestly. Not because I was curious what she'd say. That ship had sailed the moment I watched her load a box labeled guest room decor into her trunk, like she wasn't the reason the guest room now felt radioactive, but because I knew it had to happen. Closure, or whatever word people use to justify final conversations they think will undo consequences. She texted, "Can we talk?" 1 hour. Just a conversation. No drama. I stared at the screen for a while. Then typed, "Coffee. Neutral place. 1 hour. You pay. Petty? Maybe. But fair." We met at a small cafe off Spring Grove. One of those faux rustic places with exposed beams, Edison bulbs, and lattes that cost more than actual therapy. I picked it because I knew she hated the parking. She'd told me that at least a dozen times when we were still pretending everything was fine. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting by the window, hands folded, staring out like she was waiting for a train that might not stop. She looked good, polished, like someone had given her a crash course in regret, and she'd decided to accessorize it with lip gloss. "Edward," she said as I approached, like my name had suddenly acquired historical significance. I pulled out the chair across from her, sat down, and waited. She didn't start right away, just looked at me, studied my face like she was trying to remember which version of me she was talking to. "I deserved that," she finally said. I blinked. "Which part?" She sighed. "All of it. The party. The flyers. The not-so-subtle neighborhood sabotage. I got the message." "No," I said. "I don't think you have." She looked up, a little too fast. "I know I hurt you. That's not the message." Her forehead creased. I sipped the coffee. "It was awful. Perfect. You still think this is about what you did?" I said. "It's not." She tilted her head. "It's not. No. It's about what you chose. Over and over. You didn't just trip into an affair, Laura. You built it. You designed it. Scheduled it. Lit it. Framed it. Gift-wrapped it." She swallowed. "I thought it was something I needed. Right? That's what you said with your body. But your words? Those stayed with me. Your silence stayed with me. You couldn't be bothered to have the conversation, Laura. So you outsourced it to a camera lens and a man who wears scarves indoors. That got her. I saw it in the way she stiffened. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said. "And yet here we are." She shifted. "I wasn't happy, Edward. We hadn't been happy for a long time." "No, you weren't happy. Let's not rewrite this as a group effort." She bristled. "Okay, fine. I wasn't happy. But what was I supposed to do? Just live half a life? That's the difference between us?" I said calmly. "I did. For months. I lived a half-life while you chased a flattering shadow. I showed up to dinner, to bed, to holidays, fully. And you? You gave me the version of yourself that was good enough to keep suspicion low." She looked down at her hands. "It got out of hand." "No, Laura. It got exposed. There's a difference." She sat back, silent now. "I didn't come here for an apology," I said. "You already gave that. Every time you looked me in the eye and said nothing, that was your apology. I accepted it then, and I accept it now." "But do you forgive me?" I stared at her. "I forgive you the way I forgive potholes," I said. "They exist. I avoid them. But I don't trust the road anymore." She winced. "I miss you," she whispered. I nodded. "I'm sure you do. I miss what we had. We didn't have it. I had it. You rented it until something shinier came along." Her eyes welled up. "And not the performative kind. Real ones. The kind you can't wipe away without smearing whatever story you were about to tell next." "I thought he saw me," she said, voice cracking. "I thought I mattered to him." I leaned forward. "You did. As a subject. A project. A muse. But here's the thing about muses, Laura, they're not real. They're backlit ideas dressed up in soft focus and suggestion." She closed her eyes. "He moved on, didn't he?" She nodded. "Figures. Artists always want the next frame." We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, she asked, "Are you seeing someone?" "Not yet." She nodded like that hurt more than anything else. I thought maybe we could find a way to rebuild. No, I said, without hesitation. We could find a way to reassemble, maybe. Patch up the gaps. But rebuild? No. That foundation cracked the day you handed your intimacy to someone else and framed it like it was art. Tears streamed now, quiet ones. She didn't wipe them away. Maybe she knew that would make her look composed. Maybe she didn't want to fake it anymore. I still love you, she said. I finished my coffee. Set the cup down with a soft clink. I believe that, I said. But it doesn't matter. She looked up. Because love, I continued, isn't proof of loyalty. It's not enough. It's the starter pistol, not the whole race. She nodded, slowly, like she was finally absorbing the ending. I'm sorry, she whispered again. I know. She stood, slowly. Do you want me to leave first? I shook my head. No. I'll go. I stood, picked up my coat, and looked at her one last time. You get to keep the photos, I said. They're yours. Own them. Frame them again if you want. But don't mistake them for who you are. They're just a record of a decision. And then I walked out. I didn't look back. Didn't need to. Because this time, I was the one holding the camera. It's amazing how fast people adjust to your new life. Once it's obvious you're not asking for permission to live it. The first month after that final conversation, everything was quiet. Not peaceful. Just quiet. Like the space after an argument where nobody knows if the fight's over or if you're just reloading. Laura stayed out of my way. That was smart. She didn't beg, didn't show up at the house, didn't try to accidentally bump into me at the co-op or pretend she forgot something in the garage. She was playing it safe, like a kid who already touched the stove and finally believed it was hot. I kept things clean. Legally, I filed for separation. The divorce papers came 2 weeks later. I didn't drag it out. No theatrics, no contested assets. We split everything 50-50, even the things I knew she didn't deserve, like the guest room furniture she never used but insisted on picking out for visual balance. I gave her what she wanted. I wasn't interested in the scraps. I had bigger things to build. The house was sold by the end of June. We got 2 offers in the first week, both over asking. I let her pick which one to accept. Figured that was the least I could do for the woman who used our living room as a set for her emotional escape plan. I moved into a smaller place. A 2-bedroom rental on the edge of town. Not flashy, but clean, quiet, and, most importantly, mine. No ghost rugs. No shared closets. No reminder every time I passed the hall that someone once stood there making promises they had no intention of keeping. People asked how I was doing. A lot of them didn't even know the story. Just heard we were splitting and did that thing people do, the concerned head tilt, the low voice, like I'd been diagnosed with something chronic. Man, I'm so sorry. Must be hard. It was. At first. But not in the way they imagined. See, heartbreak isn't like in the movies. It doesn't hit you all at once with a sad montage and a whiskey bottle. It hits in random, annoying little waves. Like realizing you don't know where your screwdriver set ended up because it was in the shared hall closet. Like going to make spaghetti and realizing the colander went with her, and now your pasta's drowning in its own starch like an idiot. Like hearing a song on the radio, not your song, because that would be too easy, but the song that played during that dumb road trip through Indiana when the car broke down and you had to wait 3 hours for a tow truck in the parking lot of a shuttered Blockbuster. And for a second, you remember laughing. For a second, you remember that you were happy once. Then it's gone. And you realize even the good memories don't feel like yours anymore. They feel like reruns of a show that got canceled halfway through the season. I threw myself into work. Landscaping's a funny kind of therapy. You dig. You pull weeds. You shape things. You turn chaos into lines and symmetry and balance. You make something better than it was before. There's a kind of control in that. A kind of peace. I stopped looking at her social media. I had checked once, right after she moved out. Big mistake. There was nothing scandalous, just a photo of her standing in front of a blank white wall with a quote in the caption about finding clarity in solitude. The kind of thing that sounds deep until you realize it was probably written by a 22-year-old copywriter working for a herbal tea company. I blocked her the next day. One night, about 6 weeks out, I went to a bar with my friend Keith, same guy who helped me install the patio lights 2 summers ago. He brought along someone from his firm, a woman named Danny. Not a setup. Just 3 people having drinks and trying not to talk about work. She was funny, smart, wore jeans like she meant it. When I told her I used to be married, she didn't flinch or give me the sympathy eyes. She just nodded and said, Bet that taught you how to pick a restaurant fast. We split an order of wings and talked about stupid movies from the 90s. I walked her to her car and didn't ask for her number. I wasn't ready, but I remembered her laugh. It was real. The next morning, I bought a new toaster. Mine had been hers. Technically ours. But she picked it. Stainless steel, sleek, 2-slice. The new one was matte black. 4-slice. Overkill, probably. But I liked it. That afternoon, I sat on my patio, sipping coffee and watching the sun dip behind the neighbor's roof. There was a squirrel on the fence, trying to figure out how to get into my newly planted tomatoes. Laura would have said something about nature being persistent. She used to love that word. Persistent. But here's what I've learned. There's a difference between persistence and audacity. She was audacious, with her silence, her lies, her little escape into artistic expression disguised as empowerment. She built a second life like it was a vision board. And I was the tax she paid to make it look respectable. But me? I was persistent. I stayed. I asked questions. I paid attention. I put in the effort long after she stopped showing up. I gave her the chance to be honest, and when she passed on that, I gave her clarity instead. That's what no one talks about with betrayal. It doesn't end you. It defines you. It either makes you a victim or a witness. I chose the latter. I stood up in front of the evidence, looked it square in the face, and said, no more. And then I started again. No revenge fantasy. No emotional scavenger hunt to figure out where I went wrong. I didn't go wrong. I just loved the wrong person longer than I should have. So now, when people ask, what happened? I tell them, I learned how to renovate my life the same way I fix a broken yard. Pull out what's rotten, plant something new, and give it room to grow. And yeah, I still get sad sometimes. When I walk past the mirror and see myself alone at the breakfast table. When I remember the version of me that trusted too easily. But then I sip my coffee from a mug I actually picked myself. And toast 4 slices of bread in a toaster I bought for no one but me. And I smile. Because the man who was left behind? He's not waiting anymore. He's building. And this time, it's not for 2. It's for 1. And that's more than enough. The end. Subscribe to the channel